Well, Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, Scopa, wants President Cyril Ramaphosa to explain what he knows about the abuse of state funds for party political campaigns. This comes after ANC MP Mervyn Dirks wrote to the committee suggesting that it summon the president to appear before it to explain leaked audio remarks where he apparently admits to knowing about such abuse of state funds. Scopa Chair Mkulego Mhlengwa has noted that Dirks has instituted a parallel investigation into the matter. He's lodged a complaint with the public protector. Scopa says it will inform Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane's office that it's dealing with certain aspects of Dirks' complaint currently before her. Dirks says also wants the president to share information about his knowledge of the allegations with Scopa. At the same time, ANC Chief Whip Pheme Majodina has since placed Dirks on precautionary suspension after he refused to withdraw the letter to Scopa. Mhlengwa says that the committee is duty-bound to look into this matter as it involves the use of public funds. It has indicated that it will give the president up to 10 days to respond in writing. All right, let's take this conversation further then. We're joined via Zoom by political analyst Khanyi Magubane to get a political sense on this summon to the president by Scopa. Very good afternoon to you, Khanyi. Always a pleasure to see you here on SABC News.
Thank you very much to you, Flo, and your viewers.
I'll assume, of course, that we'll listen to this particular audio, which seems rather incriminating. Was that your view upon listening to this leaked audio, where we hear the president clearly speaking of public funds being used for campaigns? What has been your assessment so far?
Well, I think that it is quite damning what we've heard. And we know that the president, for all intents and purposes, has always tried to be above reproach in the way that he is approached matters that concerned his administration. But this was supposed to be a closed meeting. And for him to be that honest, I can say it was part and parcel of him assuming that this is a closed and private meeting between trusted comrades. And so for that audio to have been recorded and subsequently leaked, Flo, number one, it points to a sense of internal betrayal, that nothing is safe, nobody is safe. But in terms of the audio itself, I think the president admitting that he would rather fall on his sword and say that he received money from businesses as opposed to open up the ANC to further investigation in terms of which government funding was used for campaigns. I think that the president is doing so because he knows that the ANC will be found wanting and that the picture will actually be quite rotten. What we'll find is that over the years, the ANC has used government money extensively, and he knows this, and he wants to protect the ANC from being overly exposed. And he's saying, well, since we also had the Busasa issue where there was the issue of the 500,000 and there have been calls for my bank statements to be opened, and I've already had my name dragged through the mud as far as this issue is concerned, I might just as well fall on my sword. However, I don't think that we can just leave it at that. It is a damning piece of evidence against the president, and I don't know how he's going to wiggle himself out of this one, because Scopa is intent on investigating the matter, whether or not the MP Mervyn Dirks has been suspended. We know that's what the chairperson Mkulego Mhlengwa has said, that the suspension will not deter Scopa from further investigating this issue. He has 10 days to respond, and Flo, we can only wait and see how he's going to try and explain what he said. He may say that he was taken out of context. He may say that the piece of audio is connected to a larger conversation and that it cannot be looked at in isolation. That's what I assume he's going to say.
It's as though you anticipated my next question then, Khanyi, and that was where I was going in terms of how the president can really explain away the recording and its contents to Scopa, given that it is actually quite self-explanatory when you take a listen. But are we expecting a lot of spinning? I mean, you talk about the fact that the president said that he could fall on his sword, and that or maybe this audio shouldn't be listened just in isolation, but there's other issues that were attached to it. Is that the best way to go? I mean, if you look at how to get yourself out of this mess, is that really the best spinning or the best solution or the best response that can be given to Scopa? Is that what we are to expect then?
Well, it will depend how good his spin doctors are. And what it will actually force the president to do is to actually open what was supposed to be a closed conversation. Because for him to get out of this one, he has to actually expose what was being discussed in its entirety and how the conversation of him saying that the ANC must be protected from an investigation, investigating whether state funds were used for political campaigns. How did that come about? And of course, we know that the ANC NEC has always prided itself on having a sense of confidence on those meetings being confidential. So what this is going to do now is expose what the NEC was discussing in its entirety. And I don't think it's the best situation for the ANC, but there's no other way. If we look at the audio in isolation, then definitely it does implicate the president. But if he wants to get out of it, then he is actually going to have to expose, certain aspects of classified information, even that the NEC would not have wanted to get out in the public sphere.
Kanye, there was a question that was raised earlier on, and it was about, this information could perhaps have been useful to the State Capture Commission. And one wonders, why the president wouldn't have raised, it seems as though he has information that was not, that the public was not privy to, and of course not the media privy to, of course. How does it look then for the president that he said nothing about this that might actually be important, and that the public had to hear about it from a leaked audio to get some sort of sense of what has been going on with the campaign? I mean, it doesn't look good, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that's where the perjury comes in. And that's where the allegations of perjury comes in, that did the president go to the State Capture Commission and actually present half-truths? We know that, Justice Zondo was quite soft on the president. We call it sweetheart interviewing or cross-examining. They were not hard on him as they were with previous individuals that went before the commission to testify. And so the question is, was the president calculated in what he decided to tell the commission and what he decided not to, and to whose interest, does it serve for the president to have withheld critical information? Of course, he said at the State Commission, I do remember, Flo, that he is aware that there were state funds that were used, but he never alluded to the fact that there was any concrete evidence that could actually point to it. But of course, now we know that there may as well be, such, evidence. And we know that Mervyn Dirks has also written to the public protector, and he's also going to step forward, and he's written to the State Commission itself to look into it. Did Ramaphosa lie under oath, or was he very selective with the truth? And if that is the case, the question then would be, is he guilty of perjury? And if so, what would the ramifications be? But I think, Flo, the bigger question here is, what does this mean in context or in light of the fact that the elective conference of the ANC is so close? I mean, we're less than a year away from that elective conference. Are we starting to see the daggers coming out? And we know that the road to the elective conference is always bloody and messy. And Mervyn Dirks has been said to be an RET member. He's part of that faction, and part and parcel of why Pheme Majodina and the ANC caucus pushed to have him suspended is so that, it could send a signal to all of Ramaphosa's would-be critics or detractors that they will be dealt with. And the question is, are we then dealing with a president that's starting to show signs of being a dictator? And that if there are people who oppose him, if there are people who want to expose him, if there are people who want to square up with him, that he deals with them. And I think that's also the bigger question in terms of where we are right now within the political sphere. We have to connect the dots. We can't just look at this case in isolation.
Yeah, you know what? We'll certainly be keeping an eye on it and taking a look at what happens if the president does indeed go before Scopa. Thank you very much, as always, Kanye, for your analysis. Much appreciated here on SABC News.